Presiding Officer, bereaved families and their lawyers are watching these exchanges, and I don't think we should use Boris Johnson as our measure of success in Scotland. Presiding Officer, it couldn't be clearer. The First Minister has lost control of his government, and he appears to have misled Parliament on more than one occasion. So let's focus on the substance, because this matters. The COVID pandemic was our country's most difficult period in living memory. That's why learning the lessons and getting the answers are so important. We were promised full transparency and cooperation by this government, but they have failed. Because WhatsApp messages are not the only evidence that the government is withholding from the inquiry. The legal advice that the government has provided has not been complete and, in some cases, almost entirely redacted. The inquiry's lawyer has said that this means the inquiry is constrained from fully carrying out its function. First Minister, why is your government hiding the legal advice and not cooperating with the inquiry?
First Minister.
Whatever information we can provide, and when it comes to legal advice, obviously Anas Sarwar knows I can't comment on legal advice. Where there is, of course, the ability to hand over legal advice unredacted, then I would expect the Scottish Government to do so. And of course, I'm more than happy, after this exchange of First Minister's questions, to have the appropriate conversations with the law officers. But of course, we have to ensure that legal privilege is, of course, maintained where that is our legal responsibility to do so. Anas Sarwar says we are not complying. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. We have handed over 14,000 WhatsApp messages. I have handed over the WhatsApp messages I have in unredacted form. I haven't decided what's relevant. I've handed all of my messages over to the inquiry for the inquiry to decide what is relevant. Anas Sarwar is absolutely right. Those families who have been bereaved by COVID absolutely want answers. And what I can say, with the 19,000 documents we've handed over, with the 14,000 WhatsApp messages we've handed over, with the WhatsApp messages I have handed over, we are a government that intends absolutely and unequivocally to fully cooperate with both the Scottish and the UK public inquiries.
Anas Sarwar.
The First Minister says he's cooperating, but I'm not sure if he doesn't understand or he doesn't know in terms of the question I asked him, because he clearly hasn't still read the transcript from the COVID inquiry. Got it there? Well, read it. First Minister, read it. Because the Council to the Inquiry has made it clear that they have asked twice, on the 3rd of August and the 14th of August, for unredacted legal advice, and they have not received it. And this does not seem to be a fight that the COVID inquiry is having with the UK Tory government. Because there were major decisions during the pandemic which presumably had legal advice, such as lockdowns, discharge to care homes and do not resuscitate notices. That's why this is so important. And hiding this crucial evidence is an affront to every victim of COVID, their families and everyone who lived under lockdowns and closures. So, in reference to the First Minister's first answer, the Government has handed over legal advice in full to judicial inquiries before. The Trams inquiry, the Infected Blood inquiry and the Scottish Child Abuse inquiry. So the secrecy and evasion must stop. Will he hand over the legal advice in full to the COVID inquiry?
First Minister.
You see, in Anas Sarwar's question, he does get to the nub of the issue, which is, of course, this government has cooperated with inquiries fully in the past. Where we are able to release legal advice, we will absolutely do that. But Anas Sarwar has to accept that there is, first of all, a process that has to be gone through, and secondly, each bit of legal advice has to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. That's why he is absolutely right. We have provided legal advice in previous inquiries. Where we can do so in this inquiry, I absolutely expect every single document, including legal advice, to be handed over to the UK COVID inquiry, to the Scottish COVID inquiry as well. And I go back to the central point, quite rightly, for those families who have been bereaved by COVID, want to know, will we cooperate? 19,000 documents have been handed over. 14,000 WhatsApp messages, mainly WhatsApp messages, have been handed over. My WhatsApp messages, as well as messages I know of other ministers who have been public about the messages they have handed over, have been submitted to this inquiry. We take we take absolutely seriously our responsibility, not just to provide documents, but where possible the legal advice. But of course there are legal issues around legal privilege which have to be considered, Presiding Officer.
Anas Sarwar.
Presiding Officer, it's clear from that answer again that the First Minister is sinking, not swimming, and is completely and utterly out of his depth. It's not me saying that the legal advice has been redacted and not handed over. It's the COVID inquiry on the 3rd and the 14th of August asking for the information and still not provided by this government. That's WhatsApp messages deleted, legal advice redacted, and a different story every day. And even now, questions remain that the First Minister refuses to answer. He won't tell us how many people have failed to comply with the Do Not Destroy notices, even though the inquiries say there is no confidentiality issue. But, Presiding Officer, there's more. It's been reported that SNP ministers and special advisers use SNP and private email accounts to communicate. What is not clear is if these emails have been handed in full to the COVID inquiry. So can the First Minister tell us, in the spirit of full transparency, have any emails from SNP accounts been handed to the COVID inquiry? If so, how many? And if not, why not? Presiding Officer, can I remind the First Minister again, this is about families and about those who have lost loved ones during COVID. So before he answers, can I just remind him that we need accurate answers the first time?
First Minister.
Can I say to Anas Sarwar that I'm not arguing with him about the point that the information has been redacted. I am saying to him the reason why it has been redacted is because of issues I can confirm around legal privilege. And therefore, of course, a discussion would have to take place with our law officers in relation to what can be unredacted. Where we can absolutely send information unredacted, is my full expectation as the individual who leads the government that information is provided in full in unredacted form. And to give him an example of that, the way that I am leading by example, is the WhatsApp messages I've handed over have been handed over unredacted. The information that has been provided by me in unredacted form. As for any other form of communication and any other email address or informal or formal communication, it's fully my expectation that that is handed over. Now, of course, I do not have sight of individual ministers or witnesses' statements. From a corporate position, of course, I can confirm that any relevant information we hold will be handed over. And let me say once again that for the families of those who have been bereaved by COVID, this government will fully comply with both the UK inquiry and with the Scottish Public Inquiry.